In this video, we're just going to look at gender and crime, and in particular the Chivalry Thesis. As we've seen, official crime statistics show that women commit less crime than men. About 80%, that's 4 out of every 5, of those convicted of serious crimes, especially violent crimes like murder, are men. At least 1/3 of men are likely to be convicted for a crime in their lifetime, compared to less than 1/10 of women. So it's quite a difference. So this debate about female criminality, we tend to look at Pollack from the middle of the 20th century. And some people obviously would argue that this is quite an old-fashioned and out-of-date view. Nonetheless, it's one that we can discuss in sociology. Pollack argued that the statistics that we've just been looking at are incorrect, that women are actually committing more crime than is officially recorded. But because Pollack argues women are more deceitful and or are treated more leniently by the police and the courts, female crime is therefore less likely to be reported, recorded and prosecuted. Now, feminist sociologists such as Heidenson have argued that the statistics are largely correct. Women do commit less crime because they are simply less criminal than men. So that's the debate. But then what Pollack is arguing leads to something called the Chivalry Thesis. Pollack suggested that women commit just as much crime as men, but that female crime is more hidden because females are supposedly more devious and deceitful. Pollack argued that women play along with the male view that women are too weak, too innocent, etc. to be criminal. Pollack argued that the male-dominated criminal justice system is paternalistic, it's fatherly and protective, which is the good, benevolent side of the patriarchal power that sort of controls society. And so therefore, the criminal justice system takes a more benevolent view of female crime and largely ignores it. This means that females just don't fit police stereotypes about who might be committing suspicious or criminal behaviour. And so therefore females are less likely to be stopped, less likely to be arrested, and less likely to be charged with crimes. If women are caught committing an offence, Pollack argued that they're given softer treatment than men and are often released with a warning or a caution. This lenient treatment of women by male police officers is commonly known as the Chivalry Thesis. And chivalry is a concept of polite treatment of women by men and by society that's been around for about 1,000 years, something that we associate with the court of King Arthur and those sorts of legends. And it's this idea of that men behaving in a gentlemanly or chivalric way, holding women to as higher examples of moral behaviour, and that women are better examples of behaviour and to be lived up to and to be protected and valued, etc., etc., and that women just don't commit these terrible things. So when we're evaluating the Chivalry Thesis, we're going to look at some of the arguments in favour of it. Okay, so evaluating in favour of the Chivalry Thesis, we can look at the Office of National Statistics and the Home Office crime figures. For example, in 2013, less than a quarter of cautions were issued to females, and this is generally the case year in and year out. The research of Graham and Bowling in 1995 and Flood Page in 2000 also backs up the idea of the Chivalry Thesis. Both of these researchers issued self-reporting surveys that asked young females to admit to crimes that they'd committed. The results that they got back showed that females are indeed committing more crimes than are officially recorded, although it could be argued that these surveys tended to focus on the more trivial crimes that people are more likely to admit to and didn't really cover more serious crimes. Also in favour of the Chivalry Thesis, Stephens, Mayer and Allen in 1996 did research that found women are treated more leniently by the courts because judges are more reluctant to separate women from their children, and judges generally regarded women as less dangerous than men. Hood in 1992 studied over 3,000 court cases in which males and females were found guilty of similar crimes and found that women were 1/3 less likely to get sent to prison. Now we're going to look at some arguments against the chivalry thesis. Okay, so when we're evaluating against the chivalry thesis, we can look at the following. Farrington and Morris in 1983 studied the sentencing of over 400 convictions for theft, and they found that women were not sentenced any more leniently than the men. Both men and women received the same sorts of sentences. This could raise the issue that women may appear to be treated more leniently than men simply because the offences women commit are less serious on the whole than those committed by men. So men and women are more equal on the petty crimes, but when it comes to serious crimes, it's men that are doing all the committing of those crimes. Another factor is that women are more likely to be victims of crime than they are to be offenders. So women are more likely to be on the wrong end of crime than being the actual perpetrators themselves. More arguments against the chivalry thesis. Feminists such as Heidenson in 1985 argued that women are actually treated more harshly than men, especially if they don't fit the judges or the jury's stereotypical view of femininity. So this idea of double deviance again, women who are not seen as good mothers, for example, or women who are seen as being sexually promiscuous, are more likely to be given prison terms than women who aren't. The chivalry thesis also doesn't take into account factors like social class, ethnicity, or age. There are certain groups of women who are more likely to be treated harshly by the police and the judiciary because of things like police stereotyping and racial profiling. So as a task, you could explain what the chivalry thesis is and how it affects the criminal statistics. And this will help you to understand aspects of the relationship between gender and crime.